Good evening. It is 2100 hours 30 minutes, and that's on Central African time. And I am Thandeka Gubulembeki, and you are watching Economics Unbound. Welcome to it. The inner city of Johannesburg spiraled into chaos in the past weeks when police officers clashed with shop owners whose large quantities of counterfeit clothing and footwear were confiscated during a raid. Now, the Minister of Small Business Development, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, said the aim was to support small business and trading in South Africa with the ultimate goal of removing counterfeit goods from our markets and circulating in it.
Good evening and welcome to it. Tonight we explain what counterfeiting is and why it is a problem. We also look into the cost of this trade on the South African economy.
Now, counterfeiting, Nana, is the unauthorized representation of a registered trademark carried on goods identical or similar to those goods for which the trademark is registered. The sole purpose is to deceive the purchaser into believing that he or she is buying the original product. Now, Minister Ntshavheni says these goods cost the local economy in Johannesburg 350 million since December last year. Now, to many, a counterfeit product bought at a busy intersection in Johannesburg might seem very innocent. After all, you are supporting a street hawker and his family, or so you think. The fact is that counterfeit or printed or pirated goods are more suspicious than you think. The increase in counterfeit goods in a market represents a major threat to business and is also a key barrier to trade. The distribution of cheap and poor quality pirated goods in a market creates an obstruction to the distribution of legitimate legal products. In addition, some of these goods could have been used to smuggle illegal narcotics or weapons, or even have been produced under unsocial conditions like in sweatshops using child labor.
Yes, Tans, as the global trade in counterfeit goods is growing, Africa is increasingly being targeted as a market for counterfeit merchandise. In 2010, a new trend also emerged. Africa is being used as a transit route for fake goods, which possesses an indirect threat to European and African markets too. Counterfeit products are not produced in any significant degree in Africa. These products are mostly imported from Asia and particularly China. As such, Africa is fast becoming a dumping ground for knockoff goods. A very high percentage of counterfeit shipments from China are destined for Africa, either directly or via ports such as Karachi, Dubai or Hong Kong, in an effort to reroute the products so their country of origin can be disguised.
Yes, indeed, Nana. A number of factors contributing to Africa's attractiveness in being a destination of choice for counterfeiters includes, number one, trade links between Africa and China, where most counterfeit goods originate from, are increasing. The second point is the continent's porous borders, while outdated legislation and weak enforcement mechanisms have helped to facilitate the illicit trade across Africa. The reality that governments across the continent do not share information regarding fake goods is another point. The fourth is the reality that with modest resources at their disposal, many Africans do not consider the trafficking of counterfeits a serious crime and would therefore not hesitate to acquire or buy a knockoff product.
But Tans, what are some of the laws that govern counterfeit goods?
You see, Nana, in South Africa we have the Counterfeit Goods Act, number 37 of 1997, which includes measures to counteract trade in counterfeit goods and to protect trademarks, copyrights, and intellectual property. The Act protects owners of trademarks, copyrights, and certain marks under the Merchandise Marks Act of 1941 against the unlawful application to goods of the subject matter of their respective intellectual property rights and against the release of goods of that nature, i.e. counterfeit goods, into the channels of commerce in our country. Now, counterfeit law offers quick and effective results that ordinarily take courts years of proceedings to conclude. The procedure allows for a complainant to just confiscate the goods which are reasonably suspected to be counterfeit pending the outcome of the dispute. This can significantly minimize damage to brand owners before the case is finalized.
In its April 2019 article, Kish IP intellectual property firm states that eradicating counterfeit goods in the South African market is essential to its economy. The practical consequence of not taking action against the sale of counterfeit goods in the market results in loss in sales and profits of genuine goods and brands. It further defines counterfeit goods as goods often of a lower quality that are manufactured or sold under the third party's brand name or trademark without the brand owner's authorization. The Counterfeit Goods Act affords protection to intellectual property owners that have registered trademarks, unregistered well-known trademarks, copyright works, or prohibited marks under the Merchandise Marks Act. What constitutes dealing in counterfeit goods includes the possession of infringing goods in the course of business or manufacturing infringing goods for non-private or domestic use, or importing infringing goods into or through South Africa, except if doing so for private use. Intellectual property owners can take action against counterfeiters by identifying counterfeit goods in the market and immediately contacting the South African Police Services or an inspector appointed by the Department of Trade and Industry. The official will apply to the relevant court having jurisdiction over the matter for a search and seizure warrant if such official is convinced that the complaint of offense have been committed. They can also record such intellectual property rights on Customs Watch database. Customs will then be alerted to identify and seize all relevant counterfeit goods imported and exported through South African borders. First-time offenders are punishable by a maximum fine of 5,000 rand per item or imprisonment for a maximum period of 3 years or even both. Repeat offenders are punishable by a maximum fine of 10,000 rands per item or imprisonment for maximum period of 5 years or both.
Now, the African Diaspora Forum says government's efforts to rid the country of counterfeit goods should start at the ports of entry rather than in the CBD of Johannesburg. The forum has called on foreign nationals in the country to respect the rule of law. Dr. Abdul Karim Egoni is chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum.
I believe a majority of them are in the country legally. And I want to bring to your attention that, you see, migrants have brought in new blood, new ideas, new investments to many African countries, to Europe, to America. Germany is accepting thousands of migrants every year. You need new blood, you need new investments, you need new ideas. This is what the migrants are bringing in. If there are counterfeit goods, they must be stopped at the ports, not in Johannesburg CBD. They should be stopped at the stores where they are stored, not in Johannesburg CBD. Johannesburg CBD has a number of traders who are trying to make ends meet. They are either local or migrants.
Now, our panel of guests will help us unpack this further after this short break. Stay with us. Don't go away. Now, welcome back. I am now joined in studio by the National African Federated Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and that's by their president, Sabelo Macingwana, and by Livingstone Mantaka, who is a national coordinator for the African Council of Hawkers and informal businesses. Now, welcome to the SABC, gentlemen. You're most welcome. Let's just get into it. Counterfeit goods. Many South Africans don't think that there is a big deal about this, but of course, there is a big deal. Lost tax revenue, lack of innovation, many other things. Can you please talk to me about it? Shall we kick off with you, Mr. Magwingwa?
Thanks for the invitation. Yes, you talk counterfeit goods. For a start, I would like to say it's violation of South African trading laws.
Yes.
And the net effect of that is that it has affected a lot of other small businesses, black businesses. And
can you explain, Mr. Magwingwa, how exactly it affects negatively and impacts negatively on these black businesses?
I'm coming exactly to that. The black business in this country, many of them, if not all of them, are law-abiding citizens. And they abide by the laws and the regulations of this country. And they find themselves competing with people who are bringing counterfeit goods, who are not at all respecting the laws of this country. Of course, some laws, for instance, are the payment of tax. You'll find that our people are able to follow, to comply and pay their taxes, whereas there are those who are just trading with not at all respecting the laws of this country. There are many other things, of course, which are related to counterfeit goods. For instance, if you look at the campaign buy at home, it's undermined. If you look at the legality of their operation, for that operation to continue and remain in business, for sure, some bribery and some corruption has to be done by those who are bringing counterfeit goods in this country. There's quite a number of.
We saw in the streets of Johannesburg, sir, many hawkers, South African and non-South African, peddling counterfeit goods. By the time it has come to Johannesburg, it must have started, these goods must have come through the ports of entry. How does this happen?
Thank you. Firstly, I will be saying that counterfeit goods are the goods that our people, our poor people, could be having an access of it. Because, for instance, how can the government to allow shops who can sell those goods and they call it counterfeit? And number one, the Unilever of this world does not want to work in the development of small businesses, because all the branded companies, we have been knocking in their doors. For example, in 1993...
So let me get you clear.
Yeah.
You're justifying the sale of counterfeit goods by hawkers because you're saying that they do not have access to proper branded merchandise, and therefore they have to resort to sell counterfeit goods in order to make a living.
As the government has never been giving enough support for the small traders or for informal sector, that is the goods that are next to them. In 1993, when the Chinese came in this country and started to trade in the street, our organization have to fight with those Chinese to take them out and go to the companies that are manufacturing the same goods that the Chinese are manufacturing to say, can we give us an access to get this product and distribute it in the sidewalks?
Mr. Maqingwana is saying that the campaign to buy local and to manufacture locally is undermined by cheap Chinese goods and illegal imports, because that's what these are.
Yes.
How does this affect our manufacturing sector, Mr. Maqingwana?
Certainly, if you continue with counterfeit goods, it's going to deprive the workers the sustainable jobs which they could have, because the factories are going to close if you bring counterfeit goods.
In fact, we lost much of our footwear industry to China, and it's due to cheap Chinese imports that we lost much of our clothing and textile industries. But you are saying, sir, that grab the counterfeits, sell, make a living until government comes to the party. What should government do to come to the party other than confiscate these goods?
Okay, government have to combine or to work together with small businesses in formulating policies that will make sure that the big companies, the corporates, must work with the small traders. But the big companies, because these people who are coming from outside are coming to them with so many, what is called, Unilever. People can go to Coca-Cola. These people go to Coca-Cola and bought a staff of 2 million rands, which the small traders could not have that money.
So if government were to come to the party and dish out a slew of incentives for both small businesses and large businesses to cooperate with you,
yes,
how would that scheme work?
That scheme have never been working because we have been knocking at their doors.
Yes, we understand that you are saying that in the past it
yes,
has not worked.
Yes.
But you are proposing now that government comes to the party,
yes,
and offer both small businesses incentives and large businesses. So how would this work exactly? What are you saying government should do?
The government, because we have been having so many negotiations with government to say what government, because the first thing that we are now facing is some of the policies of the government. It's nice policies, but on the implementation of those policies is not happening. And when we go to the big businesses, corporate does not want to come in, because the only way is to say that this is the small businesses. You must make sure that you are working with these people. This is an incentive that we will be giving to you. This is the incentive that we will give to small businesses so that we can work together. How many meetings have we with the small businesses? No answer that is coming correctly.
Can you please weigh in, Mr. Maqingwana?
No, I think if we look at bottom lines, we have to understand that counterfeit undermines innovation, which is a vital ingredient of entrepreneurship and economic growth in this country.
Indeed, because we are not going to be incentivized to innovate if we are just receiving, or we are buying the stuff that's being dumped on us.
But ma'am, one thing that has been a problem to me, the government knows where these counterfeits are coming. Police knows, and they know when it is in the borders. They know when it comes to the country until it goes to the street. But how can we stop that? Because if you want to uproot counterfeit, you must stop the supply chain of counterfeit in the country.
Mr. Maqingwana, I did say that part of the problem in the supply chain is the issue of corruption at the ports of entry. And are you saying also that government should stop it at that point?
I'm saying that the government must stop it in that way. I can tell you about what have been happening in few weeks. Is that those guys of those shops have been operating there, and they have the police coming in and out in their shops before the raid. So how can you say to a layman, a person who does not have anything to sell, because there is no way that I can go and buy? And another thing that people have to understand is that in this country, we have a higher number of unemployment. And people of this country, they cannot go and buy a Nike of 1,000 rand. When he is passing in the street, there is a Nike of 300 rands. Although he
But of course,
understands...
it's not a Nike.
It's not a Nike, it's a counterfeit.
It is a counterfeit. All counterfeit that is similar to the general product. Then he see it in the street. Then
you are defending your members, because your members are hawkers, and they are the hawkers that we have seen in the streets of Johannesburg peddling counterfeits. Now, it's unlawful, but I understand that you're saying that due to the socio-economic profile of this country and the high levels of unemployment and poverty, you have no option.
definitely.
But if they were to close the borders to counterfeits, like you're saying,
Yes.
what would your members live on? What would they sell?
When the government can decide to close the borders and make sure that they build this relationship, because it is not only the government to look at the corporate. If the corporate are South Africans and they want to see this country going forward, they have to support the small businesses.
I'm asking you, would you innovate? Would you make something out of nothing if the government were to close the border?
We can make anything when we have all the support, because our people are innovative. But if we are not supported, and there is this cry of our people about these people who are coming up, we don't have a problem about the people who come to the country with a document. But those who have no document, what they are saying with
Okay,
them.
let me finish.
Let me give the last word to you.
Yeah, let me finish the point I made earlier as a bottom line. I think it's also important for me to say, in a state where counterfeit is rampant, a country quickly gains reputation as a safe haven for criminals. And that will then, if we're to allow that, we'll find ourselves an official dumping state for all these counterfeits. So I really would want to discourage the support of counterfeit for whatever reason.
On that note of respecting the rule of law in our country, that's where we will have to leave it for tonight. Remember, you can write to us at tvbusiness@sabc.co.za. Your views will be appreciated. Join us again next week. It's goodbye from me and Nana. Khonantini mawethu.